Okay, well, we've been here before, haven't we? Football Manager 25 development updates. And it is bad news today. Now, let's be real for a moment. We knew that we were going to get gameplay, or at least we thought we knew we were going to get a gameplay reveal in January. Sports Interactive said nothing, and then in the middle of the night, due to Sega and the fact it's publicly traded and they have their quarterly financial update, this bombshell was dropped at 2:30 AM UK time. Headline news if you want it, there is no Football Manager 25. In fact, in the press release thing they've put out, it doesn't even mention FM26 specifically, it just says the next game. I hope 26 is the next game. Now, I did express it over on Twitter. I was actually away on holiday. I was sat waiting for FM news throughout the end of January, and when it didn't come, I did get a sinking feeling. And when we saw that there was going to be a financial kind of report update from Sega Sammy for the end of the third quarter of 2024-25, it didn't feel like it was going to be very good. And sadly, this update came out at 2:30 AM UK time and confirmed the worst. Right here on page 16, Football Manager 25, the development of the game has been cancelled. Yeah, not exactly ideal. They're aiming for a major evolution of the series by renewing the UI and graphics and adding new elements, but it's found that new time was needed to ensure quality. They're going to cancel the release of this title and focus development on the next title by taking over development assets. What that basically means is all the work that was going into FM25 is now going to be taken over to 26. I saw some confusion about that. Sports Interactive aren't being taken over. And obviously, because there's not a game being released, that is going to incur a loss. Now, like I just mentioned, this news dropped at 2:30 AM UK time. That was actually at the end of trading at the middle of the day on the Japanese stock exchange because Sega Sammy is publicly traded. You can see here, following the news, the stock price did drop. What I will say is, in the grand scheme of things, Sega's still in a pretty good spot. Of course, you are probably familiar with Sega, the video game publishers. They actually have two other aspects to their business. The first is pachinko machines, kind of arcade machines, very popular in Japan. The other is kind of their leisure and resort sector. The game sector is a small part of that. European games is a smaller part of that. Football Manager is still a very significant part of their portfolio. So for this to be delayed is kind of big. Anyway, that's a little bit of the context. Let's talk about this development update from Sports Interactive. Sports Interactive regret to inform that following extensive internal discussions and careful consideration with Sega, they've made the difficult decision to cancel Football Manager 25 and focus on the next release. Like I already mentioned, they don't actually mention FM26 by name here. Maybe I'm splitting hairs here. Could it be a pivot to a live service thing where we get a Football Manager kind of at the end of the year and then it's just Football Manager forever with updates? Probably not. I'm probably just looking far too deeply into things right now. Anyway, they do thank everyone who pre-ordered the game. Granted, I feel like if you pre-ordered the game, especially after everything that was in the lead up to this news, it was kind of predictable they might not end with a happy ending. They go on to say they apologise for the time it's taken to communicate this decision due to stakeholder compliance, including legal and financial regulations. Today was the earliest date that they could issue it. Like I mentioned, Sega Sammy had their quarterly update financially. This is where they would like to announce big changes to their plans for the upcoming quarter, such as the cancellation of a game. Of course, if they announce Football Manager was to be cancelled in isolation, that might cause a bit of panic. If they release it as part of the quarterly update, they can sandwich it in with some good news to try and soften the blow that could potentially impact their value. Anyway, they do say that due to a variety of challenges they've been open about to date and many more unforeseen, we haven't been able to achieve what we set out to do in enough areas of the game. And despite the phenomenal why is phenomenal such a difficult word to say? Despite the phenomenal efforts of the team, each decision to delay the release was made with the aim of getting the game closer to the desired level. As they approached critical milestones at the end of the year, it became unmistakably clear that they weren't going to achieve the standard, even with the adjusted timeline. Before I go too critical here, and I do want to talk about this a little, I think it's important to realise that no video game developer, someone who works on a game, wants to make a bad game. And I'm sure at Sports Interactive, there's been people working their asses off behind the scenes to try and get the game in a state where it's ready to be shipped. Probably people cancelling holiday, working over Christmas. I feel sorry for those people. At the same time, the way in which the last kind of 6 months has played out is kind of mad. I kind of would like to dispute the fact they say they've been open about the to date, kind of the challenges faced. We've had like 2 blog posts really in the last 6 months regarding this. I actually feel like there hasn't been that much transparency, and that was something that Sports Interactive really tried to champion a few months ago in recent blog posts, this idea of transparency. And I'm not going to hold it over their heads, the most recent news, the gameplay reveal, because I appreciate that was a legal thing, but certainly, you know, in and around the pre-orders launching, everything in November, I don't think they've been that open about it, to be honest. Whilst many of the areas of the game have hit their targets, the overarching player experience and interface is not where it needs to be. As extensive evaluation has demonstrated, including consumer playtesting, we have a clear validation for the new direction of the game and are getting close. However, we're too far away from the standards you deserve. Now, it's interesting here because they talk about the kind of user interface and the user experience, two very, very important things with kind of switching interfaces. The fact they say they're too far away from the standards makes me think that the actual interface quality itself isn't bad, but maybe the functionality of it is struggling. Of course, Football Manager has moved to the Unity engine. They kind of identify here that it is the interface and not the match engine or any other aspect of the game, which I think is interesting. As far as I'm aware, Unity have actually been working with Football Manager on a brand new user interface system. Let's be honest, there is not many games as user interface intense with so many screens as Football Manager. I think Football Manager has more words than the Bible in it. And I imagine kind of it's a test for Unity moving into uncharted territory in that engine. I have a sneaking suspicion that these issues come about due to just Unity not being able to handle Football Manager. Obviously, like I said, Sega are probably, and Sports Interactive are probably working with Unity. I don't know. They mentioned the consumer playtesting here, so it's good to know that they did do that playtesting that was long rumoured, and they feel like they're getting close. I don't know, it's weird. To me, it sounds like the game itself is good. There is just issues with the UI and the new engine in that regard. And I think it's important to remember, the Unity engine is a new rendering engine for the user interface and the match engine. A lot of the under-the-hood logic that drives the game, you know, transfers, the actual players in the match engines and whatnot, that's not actually in the new engine at all. That is just represented in Unity and rendered in Unity. It seems like the UI is the issue. They state that they could have pressed on and released FM25 in its current state and fixed things down the line, but that's not the right way to do things. They were unwilling to go beyond March as a release date, as it'd be too late in the football season to expect players to then buy another game later in the year. Hard agree with that. I suppose this here implies that we will be getting Football Manager this year, be that FM26 or just a game called Football Manager. I think it's interesting, obviously, the fact that they said they could fix things down the line. Had they released the game in a broken state in March, I feel like people would have kicked off about it. And on top of that, had it taken, say, 2 to 3 months to then polish the turd that was FM25 into a more playable state, suddenly you're looking at kind of June, July time to then start working on an FM26 that you're trying to get out by the end of the year. I'll be honest, I never thought we were going to be in a situation where they would completely cancel this year's game. When you look at it kind of laid out like this, it kind of just makes sense, doesn't it? Through the cancellation, every effort is now focused on ensuring that our next release achieves our goals and hits the quality levels we all expect. We'll update you on how we're progressing with that as soon as we're able to do so. Obviously, big thing here is they announced stuff like international management and draft mode coming for FM26. Now that we're not getting an FM25, is that stuff still going to come out next year? Certainly the international management, I think, has to. We've got a World Cup next summer. So it'd be a massive, massive swing and a miss, I feel like, if there isn't international management in the game. Also interesting to note, they sign off with Sports Interactive as opposed to any individual. I know in the past, Miles has signed off these things. I do feel like Miles gets a lot of unfair hate at times. He's a very divisive man, and I don't always see eye to eye with him myself, and I've certainly butted heads with him on occasion. But I feel like this kind of failing doesn't just fall on one individual. As easy as it is to blame one person. And I've seen a lot of discourse online about let's get rid of Miles. I don't know if you've looked around other video games at the moment. Like the fact that Football Manager doesn't have egregious microtransactions and horrific monetization, I think is quite a good thing, really. I'd fear that might change if someone else took the reins. Anyway, Sports Interactive have also included an FAQ here. All versions are cancelled and will not release on any platforms. That means no mobile as well. If you pre-order the game, you will get a refund if you've purchased through an official Sega-approved retailer. If you brought it through one of those grey market sites, no idea if you're actually going to get a refund or not. They mention here the reason they opt to delay to March rather than cancel it way back is because they thought they could get it done in time. The challenges at this point meant they were unable to achieve that. So again, the challenges. They talk about the user interface and the UX stuff. I think Unity might have been the issue here, reading between the lines. They mentioned the reason they couldn't do the update in January like planned to talk about the gameplay stuff is because of compliance and sharing information, which relates to Sega Sammy Holdings and them being a publicly traded kind of company on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, like I mentioned. Not a lot they could do there. I feel kind of sorry for them. I saw a lot of people thinking that Football Manager were being quiet at the end of January, as if somehow, I don't know, maybe no one would notice if they didn't announce anything that there was no news. I can tell you now, people who work at Sports Interactive, especially in marketing, are smart individuals. They would want to kind of take control of things. Modern public relations, especially in an online age, is all about controlling the narrative, getting ahead of news, talking about it. You can't really kind of hunker down and wait for it to blow over, I'm afraid. It's not like a zombie apocalypse where you can go down the Winchester. So yeah, I saw a lot of people throwing kind of hate at the marketing team of Football Manager. It's a legal thing at the end of the day. I imagine Sega Sammy and the big wigs in Japan were like, right, we're announcing this now. If the game's been cancelled, we want to own it. Bit disappointing, really. There's going to be no FM24 data update. I know there's going to be the people out there who go, well, I'll play on PC. I've got mods. Yeah, I'm thinking more about the console users here. Not ideal for them. And you can see they ask about FM24 remaining playable on subscription platforms, stuff like Game Pass. I assume Netflix might even fall into that because I know the mobile version is through Netflix games. There's still ongoing discussions with this. Of course, we went through this before where they kind of secured some new licensee bits, I think in December time. Obviously, I think AC Milan and Inter Milan's names got changed back. Hopefully, it's going to remain on subscription platforms. Of course, if you've bought FM24, you still own it. You're not going to lose it if you own it on Steam, on Epic, on Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. But yeah, wow, there is no Football Manager 25, which is kind of mad. Now, to be honest, I did already speculate about the fact that we might get some news in the middle of the night last night over on X, formerly known as Twitter. If you don't follow me here, you should follow me here, because I saw a lot of people saying the content creators aren't talking enough. I've been on holiday in Southeast Asia for the last 2 weeks. I had loads of parts of Prem pre-recorded. I was kind of watching the Football Manager bonfire from afar. Came back and instantly got dropped with this news. Yeah, I tweet a lot of my thoughts over there. So if you ever want to ask questions about Football Manager or just kind of say hello, this is the place to do it. Like I said, I mentioned this kind of report being potentially big news and the fact they talked about issues before. I kind of suspected it might be bad news by the fact it looked like we might be getting FM news as part of the financial update. And let's be honest, it is the worst case scenario. Now, I'm fully aware people are going to want to know my 2 cents on this. I think from a consumer point of view, this is probably good news. Releasing a broken game wouldn't have exactly been ideal. I think it would have damaged Football Manager's reputation. Had they released a broken game and fixed it, it would have just led to a half-assed version of FM26 with not enough development time. So from that point of view, it kind of makes sense. From kind of that selfish content creator point of view, I can't pretend I'm not a little bit gutted. The impact that a game not coming out this year has had on my kind of bottom line is not insignificant, based purely on the fact we didn't get a new game. I don't know about you guys, I really hope FM26 smashes it out of the park. I'm hoping maybe they do like an earlier release, maybe we get a longer early access window to help them kind of test the game on a mass scale with the move to Unity. Hopefully the time that they're buying themselves here with this delay is going to be enough. I'd like to think it is going to be. I'll tell you what, though, I do think back to the announcement they did back in October that they were delaying the game to March. What was the game they released for pre-order? Like, genuinely, what was... Can you release that game as, like, a bonus, pre-order bonus that we get with FM26? I want to know what the game was that Sports Interactive were going to sell 5 months ago. Given the fact that they've now said, well, 4 months ago, that it's still not ready. Imagine if they'd released it. What would it have been like? I want to see that timeline. Anyway, that is kind of just my initial reaction to this news. To be honest, I feel like I'm still processing it. There is a very reasonable chance I think I might do a follow-up video once the dust has settled, maybe sit down with some other creators to discuss this news, what we think of it, what it means to the future of Football Manager. I think long-term it could be a positive. The fact they've not mentioned FM26 by name concerns me a little. It seems like they're pinning it all on the UI and user experience, which I know was quite divisive when they showed the first few screenshots. So from that point of view, I feel like that's good. And like I mentioned already, I'm kind of intrigued now to see what does this actually mean for the next edition of Football Manager and beyond. Are we now going to still get international management? Is draft mode going to come back? What is going to be kind of the rollout of FM26? Is it going to be different? Are we going to get an earlier preview? Will the game release earlier? Like this opens up a whole can of worms. I feel like a few months ago when people said, could the game be cancelled? I kind of laughed it off. I did not think we'd be here. I owe those people an apology. Obviously, I don't like the way that Sports Interactive have kind of said that they showed the transparency in explaining issues, because I don't think they really did enough. I empathise with the people who work on the marketing point of view, but all in all, it's just a crap situation, isn't it? Feels weird to think we're just now not going to get an FM25. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments on all of this. I feel like Football Manager and Sports Interactive have probably learned a lot from this. I think it's a crap situation to be in. I just have to hope that for the long-term future of Football Manager, this is the right decision. And now I'm expecting the standards of FM26 to be even higher than they already were. They've got to smash out of the park now, haven't they, really? We had a 0.5 year last year where it was a bit bare bones, and they kind of admitted that ahead of time. We've now had a year without a game. This current Football Manager is now going to have been in development for almost 3 full years, with everyone working on it for the most part. I know that it kind of, before that, was being worked on for a number of years, the Unity Switch. Oh, I mean, look, selfish point of view, content creator hat on. I need the game to be good. I hope you guys are still enjoying FM24, because we've got a fair few more months left of it. Anyway, folks, I'm going to leave things there for today. Appreciate you hanging out with me while I kind of process this. I feel like this has been a weird form of therapy for me. Let me know what you think down below. If you've enjoyed the video, leave a like. There is going to be Football Manager content for the foreseeable. I was planning on making a grand return to Football Manager streaming this coming month. That probably still will be happening. So if you want to show some support to that, please do. I'll see you on the next one for more. I'm going to dramatically walk off screen the way I walked in. There's just a wall there, but we'll just pretend it's serious. I'll see you on the next one. Am I out of shot? My arse is in the camera still. Bloody hell.